said, this is just a step in the process, and we continue to require your feedback, and it's necessary because it helps us perfect this bill. And we will be, of course, I've got 139 other colleagues that will be working on it as it goes through the general session. So it's been an honor to work with my fellow commissioners and all of you and the many dedicated stakeholders who've contributed to this effort. And I want to thank especially my vice chair, Senator LaCherice Aird, who has done yeoman's work on this bill and has really kept me on the straight and narrow. And I will now give her the microphone. Thank you, Senator Aird.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Let me just continue the love fest right off the gate and thank the chairman as well, but also thank each of the stakeholders. It's evident by this room today that there is significant interest in the direction that the Commonwealth heads in relative to establishing a marketplace. I cannot emphasize enough the amount of feedback that we have received from a wide spectrum of stakeholders relative to the smallest element to the largest element of this legislation. And the chairman has already laid out some significant components that will be further expressed as we work through the matrix. But I want to emphasize the process. The commission has taken the feedback that has been shared through various stakeholders. You will hear support for some of those recommendations, and you will hear continued opposition to some of those recommendations. But this is what they are. They are simply recommendations that will continue to be fluid, continue to be assessed and further work through all the way through this process as well as the legislative process. But I hope that what this matrix reveals today is a responsive attempt to try to take all of the feedback that has been received and structure it into a process and a framework that we can work from in a more, I guess, collective way. And so just thank you again to the chairman for all of the work to get us to this point. And we should now hear from anyone else, but also jump into the matrix because that's what everyone's here to get into.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Vice Chairman. As I mentioned to my colleagues, if you're interested in saying a few words, and of course, you can also do so at the end or any time during the presentation, please just let me know. Does anybody want to have any? Okay. Seeing none, I will ask counsel, Taylor May, our senior attorney, and along with Stephen Kinderman, our lead senior attorney, and Troy Hatcher, our staff attorney, who have been they've been the ones who've worked the hardest on this, let me tell you. And I really appreciate all the time that they put in. And so with that, I will give them the microphone and let them make the presentation. And there should be copies, and it's on IHOD, right, and LIS, and you can see this, and there might be copies out there. I think I see some people with copies. All right, Taylor, the show is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Joint Commission. My name is Taylor May. I'm an attorney with the Division of Legislative Services, and I'm going to be walking through the proposed changes for consideration for the Joint Commission. A couple notes. I will be working off of this matrix or spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet, as the Chair mentioned, it should be available on the study website if you're following along or want to pull it up online. And there were extra copies out on the table, but I think they've all been snagged at this point. A couple more notes that as I'm going along, these proposed changes should be understood as changes to the statutory language that was in the bills last year that passed the General Assembly but were vetoed by the governor. So the text of those bills will serve as the foundation, and any changes discussed will be amendments to that language. And second, the proposed changes come from some of the expert presentations that the Joint Commission has heard over the last few months and also from input from various stakeholders. So with that, I'm just going to go through them in order on the matrix. So the first proposed change would be to add language to 4.1604, which is the section covering the powers and duties of the CCA board, to require them to issue an annual report on the condition and health of the cannabis retail market, and to make sure there's language that that report would be sent to this joint commission. The second proposed change would also be to that powers and duties of the CCA board section, and that would be to require the CCA to develop and provide consumer education that highlights the ways purchasing cannabis and cannabis products from or cultivated and processed by licensees supports farmers, small businesses, and community reinvestment in the Commonwealth, and also include in that consumer education information about responsible marijuana consumption and health risks and other dangers associated with marijuana consumption. Next would be to that same section for the CCA's powers and duties to require the CCA to maintain a public registry that will be available online with information on the ownership and financial disclosures for all licensees. Number 4, and I will note there's going to be a number of the proposed changes. I think it's the next few, and there's a few more that are all related to kind of transparency and financial disclosures, making sure the market is healthy and trying to prevent market consolidation. So there's several of the next few proposed changes that are all kind of in that theme. But number 4 would also be a change to the CCA's powers and duties to require them to conduct at least one annual audit of ownership and financial relationships across all of the licenses and require an anonymized summary of the compliance findings be included in that annual market health report. Number 5 would also be to the CCA's powers and duties to require them to investigate the ownership and control interests of all licensees and approve or deny ownership, financing, management, and brand licensing agreements or contracts, and be able to issue divestiture orders as deemed appropriate to ensure compliance with 4.1-805. That section referenced is the section that puts limits on the amount of licenses that one person can hold, you can only have 5 licenses, each person no more than one tier 5 license. So that's the section that limits how many licenses one person or company can hold or have interest in. Number 6 would be to the section that is related to the regulations that the CCA board is required to promulgate, and this would require the CCA to promulgate regulations to establish an approval process for the board to approve or deny ownership, financing, management, and brand licensing agreements to ensure compliance with that same section that puts the limits on how many licenses a person can hold, and to establish objective criteria in order to determine whether any such financial arrangement between a licensee and another party may constitute undue influence, and that those criteria should include consideration of factors like price-setting authority, shelf space control, financing dependency, or shared personnel. Moving to number 7 on the matrix, this would also be a proposed change to that section related to the regulations that the board needs to come up with, and this would require the CCA to promulgate regulations to establish additional market concentration thresholds that include regional or statewide market share and HHI benchmarks, and allow them to deny or condition the issuance of licenses or approval of transfers of licenses that would create undue market concentration. Number 8 lists a number of sort of technical changes, and these would be to include the CCA in various parts of the code. So I have the code sections listed, but basically add CCA to the definition of state employee in the context of health and related insurance for state employees, excludes them from the Virginia Personnel Act, adds the CCA to a section related to certain disclosure statements of personal interests, allow discussion or consideration by the CCA board of certain information related to investigations of applicants to be discussed in closed meetings, and add CCA to exceptions for government data collection and dissemination practices, and then another exception that's related to the CCA for APA hearings. Number 9 is related to labeling of cannabis products, and this would be a change to 4.1600 and probably 4.11405. And this would be to add definitions of edible marijuana product, inhalable marijuana product, and topical marijuana product to that 4.1600, which is the section in the bill that has all the definitions that apply to all of the cannabis sections. And then based on those definitions, it would add some provisions to 4.11405, which is the section related to labeling of marijuana products. And the changes would be related to changing what's required to be on the label based on the type of cannabis product is, so it aligns more with the type of product. These changes are from a bill from last session, HB 1989 from Delegate Askew. His bill was just related to medical cannabis products. This change would apply those same changes to adult use marijuana products. And the next box on the matrix, number 10, are those changes, but as related to medical cannabis products. So to make those same labeling changes to better align what's required to be on the label depending on the type of product. Number 11 would be a change to 4.1606, which is again that section related to regulations that the CCA needs to come up with. And this would change the limitations on the number of each license type so that there's still a maximum of 350 for retail marijuana stores, and that's the same as what was in the bill from last year. And it would keep that maximum of 10 for Tier 5 cultivation facilities, which is the largest cultivation facility. However, it changes the rest of the limits for the rest of the license types would be left up to the board to set by regulation. Number 12 would be a change to that same 4.1606, which was related to regulations that the board comes up with. This would be a change. Last year's bill that passed called the equity licenses micro-business license applicants, and this would be a proposed change to refer to those licenses as impact licensees and to change the rest of wherever it's cross-referenced throughout the bill.
Taylor. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Aird.
Thank you so much. I have a question. I just wanted to confirm. So would it be that, is it possible that you could be a small business and not an impact licensee? And if that is the case, what do we call them if we're changing micro business to impact licensee?
My understanding is, and I may phone a friend, but I think an impact licensee may be various types of licenses if you meet the criteria to be an impact licensee laid out. And there's certain benefits that you would get if you qualify as an impact licensee. So there could be an impact micro business, I think would be my understanding. Does that make sense?
So what is it in reverse? So I'm just trying to figure out, because I know impact licensee is supposed to replace an equity licensee. And I think I was under the impression that a small business would be the micro business and that they would still be two separate things. But this is saying we're changing micro business to impact licensee. So I'm just trying to figure out, what do you in fact then call just a legitimate small business that's not an impact licensee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Aird, if I follow, it's in a few boxes down, but
okay.
There will also still be a micro business license, and that will refer to just a small vertically integrated license. And I will get to the provisions around that, but that would just be a very small license.
Okay, thank you.
And going back to number 13, so this would have to do with the criteria that someone would meet in order to be considered an impact licensee. There's a few changes that would be proposed to make to the criteria. The first one would be to add felony violations of 18.248.1, which is the current distribution of marijuana crime, to the list of prior convictions that would make someone eligible as an impact licensee. The second change would be to add language to ensure that that criteria related to past marijuana convictions or adjudications is not just limited to convictions in the Commonwealth. So it would include out-of-state convictions or federal convictions. The third change would be to change the current criteria that's in the bill last year related to having resided for 3 of the last 5 years in a historically economically disadvantaged community to instead say having resided in a jurisdiction determined by the board after using U.S. Census tract data to have been disproportionately policed for marijuana crimes between the years 2015 and 2025. And the fourth would be to add an additional criteria for someone qualifying for financial assistance from the U.S. Department of Agriculture as a distressed farmer in the last 5 years. And another change related to those impact licensees is number 14. And this would be that it would add language to require a person meet at least 4 out of those 7 criteria to be eligible as an impact licensee. And it would remove the language providing that the board establish a process that prioritizes such applicants based on the number of criteria categories they meet and to give increased priority to those applicants that meet the most. So it would kind of remove that, that scoring. If the more you meet, then the more priority you get. And it also would require you meet 4 of the 7, not just 1, to be considered an impact licensee. Number 15 would be to add language requiring the CCA to come up with regulations that would establish measurable ownership percentage targets for each of the cannabis supply chain, including cultivation, processing, and retail. And number 16 would be to create a marijuana nursery cultivation facility license that would authorize the licensee to cultivate immature marijuana plants, clones, and seeds indoors or outdoors with a canopy not exceeding 2,000 square feet. These types of nursery cultivation licensees could sell to other licensees but would not sell at retail to consumers. And number 17, this is where we get to the new microbusiness license. This type of microbusiness license would authorize the licensee to cultivate, process, and sell marijuana or marijuana products. Such licenses would allow the licensee to deliver their products to consumers and sell on site at their licensed premises. And they would be required to use the seed-to-sale tracking system, verify age and identity, comply with all testing, labeling, and packaging requirements, and they would only sell cannabis cultivated and processed by the licensee. And there would be canopy limits, 3,500 square feet for indoor, 10,000 square foot for outdoor. This type of license could only hold 1 microbusiness license and can only sell their own products. So that would be kind of what the new microbusiness would entail. Number 18 would be a change to 4.1-800, which is related to the cultivation facility licenses. This would set the canopy limits as stated for the new microbusiness license for, as said, 3,500 square foot for indoor canopy and 10,000 for outdoor. And then this proposed change would be to amend the maximum canopy limit for the Tier 5 cultivation facility, which is the largest one, from 70,000 square feet to 35,000 square feet. And that would be indoor only. Number 19 would be to add a new section that would create a marijuana delivery operator license. This type of license would allow the licensee to deliver marijuana from retail stores or microbusinesses directly to consumers and require the CCA to come up with requirements for securely delivering marijuana. And this would include requirements for age verification, delivery radius, and record keeping. Number 20 is related to adding language that would allow shared processing hubs that would allow microbusinesses and or other small processors to legally process cannabis products without each having to own a full processing operation, so they could kind of work out of a shared processing facility. Number 21, This would be to add language clarifying that licensees, such as cultivation licensees, processors, and retail marijuana stores, are authorized to transport their cannabis and cannabis products to other licensees. This would not be talking about transporting to consumers, just transferring between businesses. And so this would allow them to transport on their own, but we would leave in there's a transporter license in the bill from last year, so the businesses could also utilize a transporter licensee if they wished, but they could also transport it on their own. Number 22. This would be adding language to that section 4.1805 related to limitations on the number of licenses someone can hold, to add language specifying that for the purposes of that section and the limit on multiple licenses awarded to one person, interest will include direct or indirect equity interest in any entity regardless of percentage, including interest of 0.01% or less. Number 23, this would also be in that same section for a limitation on licenses, and this would be to add language to prohibit a person from being granted or holding interest in more than one Tier 4 marijuana cultivation facility license. That's the second largest. Number 24, this is related to some of the financial transparency and trying to protect against market consolidation, but this would be to add to that section related to regulations by the board to provide that no license can be assigned, sold, or transferred, nor ownership or control be changed without prior written approval of the board, and any change that is made without that approval would be void and constitute grounds for suspension or revocation of all affected licenses. And it would also have the CCA come up with regulations to establish procedures for that ownership disclosure and getting prior written approval. It has some language saying that the regulations need to include provisions that would require ownership interest be traced through all intermediary entities, include provisions specifying that a change of control occurs upon the acquisition of 20 or more equity or voting power, execution of an instrument conferring appointment or removal rights, cumulative transfers totaling 20% or more within any 24-month period. Number 25 would be to have the CCA come up with regulations that prohibit licensees from making any loan, gift, service arrangement, marketing payment, or brand licensing agreement with another licensee that in the judgment of the board may unreasonably influence retail pricing, brand placement, or shelf allocation of cannabis products.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Evan.
if we want to discuss these further, should we pull them out or just note them now, or how do you want that to be handled?
I think ask them now as we're
Okay,
going
I just
through it, 'cause
want
there's
to make
lot.
a note on that one to come back to it.
Okay, you can certainly do that.
Or
It's your
you want to do it
prerogative. But
now?
if you want to do it now, it might be a
Yeah.
good idea. Well,
I just wanted to ask the rationale. I mean, brand placement and shelf allocation, what's the reasoning to prohibit that? Considerations for that? Is that out of the norm for, like, would they do that in the liquor business, or do they?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There may be someone who may be better able to speak, but just I think some of those provisions are related to preventing like price manipulation, shelf or brand favoritism on certain brands, preventing some like sort of hidden monopolization where perhaps someone's not an actual owner on paper, but if they have a certain amount of control over the retail pricing or what's placed on the shelves, then some people may consider that kind of an undue influence at that point. I think that's what it's trying to get at. But.
Okay, because, Mr. Chairman, I would just say that I don't know that some of those things are as bad as others. It may be something you want to revisit or take comment on at a later point.
Yeah, let's actually that's a good segue too. If there's things here that we want to either talk about after the meeting or just to solicit comments from the general public for when you're speaking afterwards or later on with emails and texts or whatever, please, respond to that. But our members, there'll be, obviously, we're going to be working on, we've got a lot of things, there's a lot of stuff still here that we need to work on to perfect at the end, and that's why we're having this final hearing. So this will be something, I'm going to put a pin in this one as one that we can discuss. And I assume as we go forward, you guys will keep, as we go forward, any of the members here, please do the same thing as Senator Eben has done. But I will say that I think a theme of this bill is that we are, we're trying to really make sure that there's no monopolies and no like big tobacco, right? And so it's better in some ways to be a little tougher with this iteration than not to. And then if it comes back like a year from now or 2 years from now, it's more problematic, then we revisit the code and we make changes. But starting it seems to me it's more prudent to be the tough parent, if you will, and then we can always walk it back a little bit because there'll definitely be changes that we'll need to make in the future. So that's just kind of the way I like to do things, but I think that's a prudent way to proceed. All right, Taylor, you're on 26, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Number 26 would propose adding language that the board shall suspend or revoke any license if it finds the licensee is not operational within 24 months of issuance of the license. Number 27 would be to add language requiring retail marijuana stores operated by pharmaceutical processors to offer for sale a certain amount or percentage of marijuana or marijuana products that are cultivated or processed by micro businesses and impact licensees, that amount or percentage to be established by board regulation. Number 28 would change the required minimum distance between retail marijuana stores from 1,000 feet to 1 mile.
Let's have order. I knew that would be a tough one. We can talk about that too after the meeting, and then public comment. Bring that forward, and you might be able to convince us. But we've had the idea here is that we have 350 licenses, retail licenses, and there's about 402 ABC stores. I see the ABC directors here. I think it's something like that. And so we're trying to be similarly situated with density. So there would be, in every delegate district would have 2 or 3 of these stores, not 20 in one location. So that's the idea.
Mr.
Senator
Chairman,
Eben.
just a comment. If there's only 402 or so ABC stores, because the Commonwealth in some areas is more densely populated, you might want to consider going to a half mile or something a little bit less, so they're not all within 1,000 feet of each other, but maybe allowing some leeway for where there's more urban areas, where there's more densely populated, where there might be appropriate to have more than one store.
Okay, and let's put a pin in that one. And again, please comment when you get an opportunity at the end of the meeting. And keep in mind also that local zoning will allow them, this is the minimum, and we could go to half a mile perhaps, and then local zoning could do more if they wish to. Am I correct with that, Council? The way this is just the bare minimum.
That's correct,
Okay.
Mr.
And local
Chair.
zoning they could decide where further they could make it 2 miles or something like that. All right, keep going. Number 29.
Yes, number 29, this would be to add language stating that a retail marijuana store shall not be located within 1,000 feet of places of religious worship, hospitals, schools, playgrounds, child day programs, substance use disorder treatment facilities, or government facilities.
That's similarly the same thing for local government. They would have that zoning authority to make that even more difficult if they wished. More robust, I think is a better word. All right, continue, please.
Number 30 would be to add language specifying that retail marijuana stores can also sell marijuana paraphernalia. Number 31 would be to have the CCA conduct training that's open to the public and to provide educational resources to the public on the application process for licenses. Number 32 would be to add language requiring the CCA to provide for independent audits of the licensed lottery processes and to publish such lottery processes and the results of all lotteries on a public dashboard.
Let me interrupt you, sorry. The reason for the number 30 for the retail marijuana stores to sell marijuana paraphernalia is the idea here is to mirror exactly what the regulations are regarding medical marijuana right now. And at a medical marijuana dispensary, they can sell some paraphernalia, so it'll be a similar situation. So what you'll see in a retail location is it would have the same kind of robust regulations around it that you get with medical marijuana, with tinted glass, no neon signs and things like that. And you'll see some more discussion around that. The other ones after that Taylor's just gone through are definitely coming from our hearings from the general public, from all of you, making sure that, especially on the transparency, that there's audits of the process and that it's all on a public dashboard so that everybody understands it. But I'm not going to go through all of these and defend each one. I just wanted to make that clear. I'm sorry. So, yeah, and I think the next two, let me just say, also the taxes, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to go from 2.5 to 3.5 for the local. And then we've taken, and I know this is a biggie, we've removed the tax that we have. I think it was 6% or 9% on paraphernalia. So that's no longer in the bill. It's just a regular sales tax that you would get at any store. So that's been removed. All right, Taylor, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. And I'm going to jump back to number 33. This would be to add language to section 4.1808, clarifying, and I believe that's the section related to application process. And this would be to clarify that a prior conviction for a felony violation of 18.2248.1, which is the current distribution of marijuana crime, is not cause for the board to refuse to grant a license. This is a clarification because right now there's language in that section saying the board shall refuse to grant a license to a person who'd been convicted of a felony or crime of moral turpitude in the last 7 years. But we also added that felony distribution of marijuana crime as an eligible criteria for impact licenses. So just clarifying that that felony conviction is not going to be cause for the board to refuse to grant a license. Number 34 is sort of related to that same topic, but adding language to 4.1/1000. There's a line from last year's bill in there that says the board shall not disqualify an applicant because of a past conviction for a marijuana-related offense. So there would be a tweak here to make sure that language doesn't conflict with that same language mentioned that says the board shall refuse to grant a license to someone convicted of a felony or crime of moral turpitude in the last 7 years. So there would be a clarifying language added there. Okay. And then skipping to number 37, since Mr. Chair went through 35 and 36, this would be in section 2.2-2499.8, which is the section related to the cannabis reinvestment fund, to specify that 50% of that fund is to go to the Virginia Cannabis Equity Business Loan Fund.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Evans.
Yeah, I have an issue with that and concern about how we're, with the finances, how we proceed in general. But we had initially in the bill that passed, and it's in the Code of Virginia now, about the reinvestment fund, we put it to serious purposes like reentry for people who've been incarcerated or job training or scholarships. And this kind of says that that money must be used to invest in marijuana businesses, which will be a relatively small number of beneficiaries. And I'm just wondering why we want to specify that half of the money goes there. just something that I personally would rather see broadened than
Senator.
narrowed.
So the and you're working off the what's in the code currently, and we've been working off of the bill
Right.
that.
Well, I mean, I didn't like that last part of last year's bill myself.
No, I
Yeah.
understand. It's something you've never liked, but that's okay. That's okay. I think this is a process, and we still have to go through finance and appropriations, and we really haven't. This bill doesn't. Outside of this, and maybe it's more aspirational than anything else, but the idea here is really to make sure that the marketplace it gets up and running, and so we wanted to put as much money into that process as possible. And I know that there's the powers that be are going to have to weigh in, and they're going to have their own decision-making process, but. I think if you look at, we had a presentation on the marijuana revenue distribution a few months back, and as you remember, right now we have the local, which is 3.5%, and then we have that 1.115% sales tax that goes to public education, and then we have the 8% that goes to the Cannabis Control Authority and flows, and they get cut to be able to run their admin and salaries, et cetera. And then the rest of it goes through the general fund for this Cannabis Equity Reinvestment Fund, which we call the SURF. And then we had money for pre-K. We had 10% there. We had 25% for DBHDS. We had 5% for public health programs. So we really haven't touched that, except for to make sure that when you get to that 80% that goes to the Cannabis Equity Reinvestment Fund, that had like 5 different places, and we wanted to make sure that half of that goes to the Cannabis Equity Loan Fund. So by the time it dribbles down there, it feels like it's 50% of everything. It's not 50% of all the revenue.
It's 50% of a large amount of money. But,
No, it
but
is.
might I just make one suggestion?
Yes, Senator.
Is if your goal is to stand up these businesses to see that they have investment early, then maybe you could just do that for the first several years instead of doing it in perpetuity, unless I haven't seen the wording. But
No, that may be, let's put a pin in that one, and that could be a good suggestion, and we'll see what the public says when they get up and testify. Senator Ayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to also echo that as we are considering, and I know at the end of the day, this investment will be heavily scrutinized by the financial committees, both in the House and the Senate. But I think it's important to go on record to say, if we're talking about standing up these businesses, the other important element, in addition to the $3 million that we're going to put up front for these licenses, is ensuring that they have the technical support to ensure they can comply, to have access to real estate for capital. There's a lot of additional assistance that will be required to actually stand up businesses outside of just this flat out cash. And so to me, it's going to be very important to see that we set up those resources, especially for first-time business owners that want to get into this industry, but maybe new to the industry. And so I think that I need to go on record to say that I just don't want to see millions of dollars being handed out without the resources to support their long-term success as well.
And the point taken, and that I think we're all in agreement on that. It's just the devil's in the details, but we'll keep working on that. Go ahead, Taylor.
And Mr. Chair, I did mean to note for that Cannabis Equity Reinvestment Fund, the code section that is already current law, it does already specify, as referenced by Senator Eben, the various purposes that the money will go towards. So that's already in code, and that wouldn't be changed. It includes supporting persons, families, and communities historically and disproportionately targeted and affected by drug enforcement, provide scholarship opportunities and educational and vocational resources, award grants to support workforce development, mentoring programs, job training, et cetera, contribute to the Virginia Indigent Defense Commission, and then contribute to the Virginia Cannabis Equity Business Loan Fund. The code right now just doesn't specify percentages to go to each of those purposes, so this proposed change would be to specify that 50% of the fund go towards the Equity Business Loan Fund. Just wanted to note that.
Thank you for that.
And
keep in mind, everybody, that what you're seeing today are the changes to the bills that have been vetoed by the governor, not what's necessarily in code. but we really haven't made any, we're not making too many alterations to what's currently in code. And maybe as you're going through, if there are changes to the code, please note those for us, Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then number 38 may have been referenced, and this wouldn't be a change in the bill, but this would be a proposal to allocate $3 million in the budget upfront to support the first round of licensing. And number 39, this would be to remove section 4.1629, which is in the bill from last year. So this would remove the option for localities to hold a local referendum to prohibit the sale of marijuana and remove any cross-references to that local referendum. Number 40 would be a proposal to add a statement of purpose that would state the General Assembly's purpose in creating the retail market framework. It would include language, the purpose to create a new approach to marijuana regulation that's rooted in principles of restorative justice, economic equity, and public health in order to generate significant new revenue dedicated to community reinvestment, to create hundreds of new small and local businesses, strengthen the Commonwealth's vital agriculture sector, end the racially disparate impacts of prohibition, and protect the health and safety of all citizens of the Commonwealth, and that the framework is further intended to establish a competitive, sustainable, and decentralized market structure built for long-term success, prioritizing the creation of durable, independent businesses over the maximization of short-term tax revenue. Number 41, this would be to add a section requiring that all marijuana establishment license applicants to have entered into a labor peace agreement with a bona fide labor organization. Number 42, this would be to add language. This is in the section related to regulations promulgated by the CCA board, to add language specifying that any regulations related to the outdoor advertisement of marijuana or marijuana products that's related to retail marijuana stores be at least as stringent as those established for pharmaceutical processors or cannabis dispensing facilities related to the medical program. Number 43 is related to that as well. It would be to add a subsection to the current statute 4.1-1402, which I believe is related to advertising, related to outdoor advertising of marijuana, that would state that any signs placed on the property of a marijuana establishment shall not display imagery of marijuana or marijuana use or draw undue attention to the facility, but may be designed to assist consumers to find the marijuana establishment. This language comes from a current regulation that applies to medical cannabis facilities, so it tracks that language. Number 44 and on, we're getting into language that would likely be in an enactment clause. So this would be an enactment clause directing the CCA to issue up to 100 temporary direct-to-consumer micro-business licenses. These would be given to applicants that are registered as hemp growers or processors with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and in good standing as of July 1st, 2026. Or they qualify for an impact license pursuant to the criteria that we laid out, or they qualify as a farmer under the USDA qualifications. And if you meet either of those three criteria, then you also need to meet financial security and operational readiness criteria that can be established by the CCA. These temporary direct-to-consumer microbusiness licenses would authorize the licensee to cultivate cannabis, process cannabis, and sell their own cannabis and cannabis products directly to consumers through age-verified delivery or on-site retail sales at their licensed premises. These licensees would need to utilize the seed-to-sale tracking system, verify age and identity of purchasers, comply with any testing, labeling, and packaging requirements. And similar to the standard microbusiness licenses, they can only sell cannabis cultivated and processed by them on their licensed premises, and they'd be subject to the same canopy limits, 3,500 square feet for indoor and 10,000 square feet for outdoor. Number 45 is related to these temporary direct-to-consumer microbusiness licenses. It would be that the CCA will begin accepting applications for such licenses on July 1st, 2026, and to issue up to 100 by September 1st, 2026. On September 1st, they could start cultivating and processing operations, but would not be permitted to engage in retail sales until November 1st, 2026. The program would sunset once the CCA certifies that at least 100 retail marijuana stores are operational statewide, or once 24 months had elapsed from the program launch, whichever occurs first. And upon expiration of the program, those temporary direct-to-consumer microbusinesses would have the option to apply to convert to just a standard microbusiness license. Number 46, this says that the CCA would create a streamlined application process for pharmaceutical processors that have been issued a permit by the board pursuant to the medical cannabis program chapter. Provided that all the licensing requirements are met, the CCA shall issue the applicable licenses for any location for which the permit has been issued. This would be up to 9 licenses upon the payment of a one-time $10 million conversion fee to the authority, and that the CCA could specify that a portion of that fee is paid prior to the issuance of the licenses and a portion may be paid in installments after. Number 47 is similar, but this is related to the CCA creating a streamlined application process for no more than 5 industrial hemp processors or growers who are or were previously registered with VDACs and in good standing with VDACs prior to forfeiting their registration or allowing that registration to expire. Provided that all the licensing requirements are met, the CCA will issue a cultivation license to such applicants upon the payment of a $500,000 conversion fee to the CCA. And similarly, the CCA could have them pay a portion before and maybe installments after the license is issued. Number 48 is also related to industrial hemp processors or growers. Any priority, I think the language in the bill from last year said priority for Tier 4 and Tier 5 cultivation facility licenses would be given to pharmaceutical processors and these hemp processors or growers that are registered with VDACs. Any language that gives that priority would include industrial hemp processors or growers that were previously registered, and as long as they were in good standing at the time that their registration was forfeited or expired. And number 49 would say that on July 1st, 2026, when the CCA is to start accepting applications, that they would first prioritize applications for that temporary direct-to-consumer microbusiness program to issue up to 100 by that September 1st date. Then prioritize streamlined applications for pharmaceutical processors and those up to 5 industrial hemp growers or processors, and then also prioritize applications for impact licenses, microbusiness licenses, and Tier 1 and Tier 2, the 2 smallest cultivation facility licenses. Number 50 says prior to November 1st, 2026, the CCA shall have processed those applications for pharmaceutical processors and industrial hemp growers and processors and issued cultivation licenses to no more than 5 of the industrial hemp growers and processors, and also have issued at least an equivalent amount of new licenses to impact licensees, microbusinesses, and the 2 Tier 1 and Tier 2 cultivation facility licenses. Number 51 would have the start date for retail sales in the Commonwealth be November 1st, 2026. And this would be when retail sales can begin as long as conditions of licensure are met by the licensees that have been issued the licenses. And then the last 2 would be related to the first, number 52, related to this Joint Commission studying the establishment and implementation of an on-site consumption license, which would allow certain businesses to have people come to the licensed premises to consume marijuana or marijuana products, and also study microbusiness cannabis event permits such as farmers markets where certain licensees, processors, cultivators, microbusinesses can directly sell to consumers their products. And then the last one would be
Mr.
to
Chairman?
direct.
Hold on, Taylor,
Yes.
Senator Eben.
Yeah, on number 52, I support the study of the on-site consumption license, but could you explain further about this micro-business cannabis event permits like farmers markets? Because it seems to me that we're trying to introduce a really controlled market where people can't even get into the store without the right age verification on the one hand, and then on the other hand, we're studying kind of a farmers market approach. I wanted to learn more about what that might entail.
I think the idea here is that we want the public to know that these are possibilities down the line, and that there's been a lot of, we've heard from everybody, over the summer that this is something that they would like to see happen potentially. And so this is just an enactment clause that says this group here, our commission, to oversee the transition, will look at it. It doesn't mean we're adopting it. It doesn't, we could put a little bit more specific language in here, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, it's going to be what we come up with, and with the general public, again, testifying and trying to figure out what kind of an on-site consumption license would look like and whether farmers markets are the right place. And so it's really aspirational, and it's just to let everybody know that this is something that is a potential option for the future, but we would go through the same vetting process of a year or 2 years of meeting and going over it, and then seeing how the market is graduating, and that might be something we want to do. And I think that's the idea. We could take it out, and it wouldn't make any difference.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it would make a difference because it's a lot of manpower of the CCA, but I think we should study the consumption license. I just question whether we need to go further at this point in the next few years. That's just my 2 cents.
We can change the timeline for when we study it.
Yeah, we can make this. We can change the timeline when we study this. It doesn't have to be next year. It could be the year after. We still have another couple years on the life of this commission, and we can always extend the life of this commission as we go through. As I said early in my opening statement, I think we're going to have a lot of opportunity to tweak the law after it passes, and this is just potential tweaks. This doesn't hold us to. This doesn't mean we're ever going to do this. It just means we're going to look into it, and I think that's what I heard from the general public. But we can even if we take this language out, it doesn't mean we won't study it anyway. So it's
Right,
really,
but I just don't think we should study it to start with, but that's just me.
Senator Ayer.
No, I was saying he should have said that.
Okay, so you don't like it, just you don't want it to be studied at all.
The event permits, I mean, it's a controlled substance. Yeah, I think we should start by getting it right in the retail stores, and that on-site consumption license, we should look at what other states are doing.
Okay, we'll put a pin in that one, and maybe what we'll do is take out the microbusiness cannabis event permits in farmers markets. It doesn't, see, the public likes it.
The public is not always right.
We'll come back to it.
All right, let's,
We'll come back to it.
all right, let's have order. So but I appreciate that. Now it's, Senator, we'll put a pin in it, we'll talk more about it, but whether or not it's in this bill, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't preclude us from coming back here and studying it in the future.
Over-encourage and over-commit staff before we have a staff
I understand.
greatly expanded.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, but it doesn't. We're not making that decision today. We're going to have to continue. And you guys, again, you're going to have a chance to speak at the end of this meeting. So please weigh in. Thank you. All right, last one.
Last one, Mr. Chair. Number 53, this would be another enactment clause to direct this joint commission to study the advantages, disadvantages, and feasibility of Virginia ABC being involved in the enforcement of the laws and regulations related to cannabis.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Eben.
Yeah, on that last one about getting the ABC involved, we made a conscious decision, I think it was in 2021, to establish a cannabis control authority to regulate cannabis and be focused on cannabis and to follow some of the best practices from pharmaceutical. I don't know why we're bringing back a study of the ABC being involved in it. Doesn't seem to me that we need to do that either, but that's just my opinion.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay, well, we'll put a pin in that one as well. Thank you, Senator. And for public comment time now, since we've done this so quickly, we're giving everybody a minute each. And thank you very much, Council, for your presentation and for all the hard work that went into this. And please, all of you, there's no pro and con here. It's just come on up and line up and introduce yourself. Give us your name, and if you're with the group, please mention that. And then you have a minute, and the clerk will be timing you. And please try to stick to the time. And we may ask you questions. That'll be the prerogative of the commission. Okay, do we have anybody who wants to? We have some people online. Don't all come up at once. Okay, here we go. Please come up and introduce yourself. Thank you.
My name is Mike Aduda. I'm a farmer. Used to have a CBD store. There's 38,000 farms in Virginia. There's 1,400 licensed hemp retailers who paid a $1,000 fee. There's 19,000 beer retailers who pay $300 per year for that license. Yet, and originally we had 450 licenses scheduled for cultivation in 2021. That was sliced to 120 last year. This is not a fair market. Cannabis is an agricultural product. I urge you to protect its growth by ensuring growers in an A1 zoning utilize standard agricultural exemptions. And I have proposed language I can provide you for that.
Okay, I do. Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we made changes? We did not. We've taken away the total cultivation licenses amount, right?
You put it to the CCA, which
Yeah, we put it to the CCA, but it's based on having enough product in the store. So if there's too much product in the stores, then there would be less cultivation licenses, but it will also adjust as they roll it out over a period of time. So the idea is to actually have more, not less. But it's a balance. But thank you, and certainly give us that information. Appreciate your comment. All right, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I am one of the small business owners here in Virginia, and I really don't have statements. I have more questions. So I'd like to know how many of the 350 retail licenses will be allotted to impact cases, and then how many of the micro licenses will be issued outside of the first 100 temporary licenses? Do we have any numbers?
Taylor, there's not going to be any quota.
Okay.
But it's applications based on those parameters, and CCA will be monitoring all of that. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to say, I missed the first part of the question, but there was the one proposed change that says that by November 1st, the CCA is to issue at least an equivalent amount of those micro-business licenses impact or the smaller cultivation facility licenses as they issued to the pharmaceutical processors. So it just says at least an equivalent amount, but leaves up to the CCA.
Yeah, so that so on November 1st, it would not just be medical. So there would be at least, you'd have an equal number of other.
But we don't know how many of those 350 retail licenses will be delegated to impact cases?
No, there's no number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Price.
Thank you. I want to, as your sidekick, remind you and others that during public comment, it actually is not a conversation. Okay. And so if you have questions, I think, Mr. Chair, it is really important that you contact us. Okay. But this is the opportunity for us to hear from you, your facts, your opinions, and your experience. And so if you have questions, you can say them, but this is not the time for a conversation with us.
Thank you for the admonishment, and that's my fault, not yours. And my senior delegate, she has seniority over me, and so I appreciate it, and she's a great chair of P&E. All right, so we're not going to be responding to everything. We're going to try to listen to you, and then we'll certainly be available afterwards as well. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Nicholas Austin, cultivator, Royal Family. Why are the medical license holders getting a conversion license for $10 million? I think this will crush all the micro licenses. They will immediately dominate the market share since they are already consolidated. Using shall issue as a legal term, that means they will get the license if they pay the fee. This is bad for all the hard working that has been done for you guys to help us. Just their money is just so much deeper than ours. I mean, they're going to come out and crush us with cheap flour, giving them any head start and even allowing them in this market is a lot. $10 million is nothing to them. And shall means they get it no matter what. So, even if we prove in the next few months that they've been abusing their privileges, shall just means they get it no matter what. And I just think maybe we could do better. Thank you for all your hard work.
How's it going? Good morning. My name's Joe Domino, Marketing Director for a compliant Virginia hemp company. Americans are drinking less alcohol, and THC beverages are becoming a preferred alternative. In a survey of over 1,000 adults, 77% say they now drink less alcohol after trying THC drinks, and over 20% have quit alcohol entirely. 1/3 of the respondents were 55 and older. While I'm excited for the adult use market, Virginia's hemp enforcement program is currently the only system capable of supporting Virginia's microbreweries producing low-dose THC beverages, as well as vital non-consumables hemp categories like topicals and pet products. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals on January 7, 2025, ruled in Northern Virginia Hemp and Agriculture versus Virginia Commonwealth, confirmed that states have full authority to regulate hemp beyond federal limits, including the arbitrary 0.4 milligram THC cap Senator McConnell inserted without debate into the bill that reopened the government. Because in SB 903, we have our own regulatory framework, and I see I'm done, so we hope you protect the hemp framework alongside adult use, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much.
My name is Jesse Friars, and I represent the Virginians for SaferCannabis.org. And in reference to item 53 related to the ABC, I stand with Senator Eben. This has been discussed, debated a long time ago. We feel that we are on solid ground with the CCA, and any discussion about the ABC being involved, we would stand greatly opposed to it. You guys are doing a great deal of work. Good job. At the same time, there's work to be done. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend William Avon King. I pastor the Tranham Grove Baptist Church in Halifax County. Also, I'm with the Southern Christian Leadership and the Interdenominational Ministers Alliance. I'm here with Virginia for Safe Cannabis. And my concern is that in the rural areas such as Halifax County, when tobacco farmers were able to raise tobacco, in a period of time they started to dealing with the poundage, and it cut out all of the minority farmers and black farmers to where they were not able to compete because you had to have a certain poundage to actually be involved in the processing. And so I'm hoping that we would look at that in this industry as it began to expand, that the limited licenses and the limitations may, in one area, cut out certain people to be in the business. My second point is that when the cigarettes were declared harmful, they put it on the pack. It may cause cancer. I also would like to see that something will be done as this product is put into the community that will warn people that cannabis is not necessarily as safe as it has been perpetrated in our community. Things such as cannabis disorder and other problems that we have from our children going to sleep in the classroom when they get these products and not focusing no longer on the education process. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Phillips, and I'm from Danville, Virginia, and I'm with the Ministerial Alliance, also with Virginia for SaferCannabis.org. And my concerns are education on the effect of secondhand cannabis smoke on our children and youth. And the component of it also is when I heard about the farmers market. So that's a big concern. Then the other one is education for the community on the types of jobs and career choices that will be affected by their use of this marijuana or cannabis usage. And the other one is services for those that become addicted to this product. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Reverend Ricky Halestock, Senior Pastor of White Rock Baptist Church in the city of Lynchburg, Virginia, and member of that ministers' conference there. And I have just a concern in the holding of illegally operating vape, tobacco, and smoke shops in our communities. Fully accountable for harmful activities like selling unsafe and harmful products, especially to our underage youth, with goals to shut them down. Just to ask you, the Commission, to consider some of the policy choices, some that were in place back in 2020, to be watchful of determining the legal limits on the amounts of the product that individuals could possess.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Your time is up. Thank you.
Amen.
Hello, Mr. Chair, and to the Commission. Thank you. My name is Chelsea Higgs-Wise with Marijuana Justice. I just want to say thank you so much for your hard work on these recommendations. It adds transparency and opportunity for Virginia. We will continue to say that we're worried about the early start that November 1 might provide, and just a realistic train of events that CCA may not be able to hire, train, and implement the staff needed for the November 1 date. And so therefore, if the micros and the hemp conversions are not ready, even by November 1, it would only be the medical folks that are there and able to sell. Our suggestion is from the matrix to tie number 51 to number 50. And that would say that our November 1 start date would be a go as long as these other operators are certified and ready to go as well, because there could be a holdup that is not their own fault. Also, just wanted to speak on number 25 about the shelf space. It's my understanding, as we've seen across the country, that it can be a pay-to-play on shelf space, and that what can happen is it ends up disproportionately hurting small businesses and farmers that just come in on their hustle and hard work of a product, and they're not able to then basically pay to play for shelf space, and that's why we put that protection in the regulation. I also want to say I agree with Senator Eben about the ABC. We fought really hard for the CCA, but unfortunately, I do disagree. I believe that we should look at the farmers market study to see how we can do that in a way that protects our communities, but also provides
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Rawlinson, a registered nurse, small business owner, and farmer. I am with the Virginians for SaferCannabis.org. I'm here today to express concern and support for health and safety for the community, as well as specific provisions put in place to ensure inclusion of Black farmers' businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm John Towns. I'm Associate Minister at Chaco Baptist Church in Java and member with the Ministers Alliance, Danville, and vicinity. My concern is the use of this cannabis, and I'm sure there will be some for recreation, some maybe for sickness, but there are others that may not be affected, and they still desire to use it. So my concern is that, and my desire is that you would consider our communities as a whole, that they would be protected from the abuse and the use of these cannabis, because they are dangerous. They have dangerous qualities to them. And so my desire, and I plead to you, is that you would consider our youth.
Thank you, sir.
that. My notes just went away.
Mike.
That's okay. We won't start your time until you start talking.
All right. Damn. Give me a step. Okay, here it goes. All right. Good afternoon, Commissioner. I spoke back in October as someone who had a skillful trade as a shipyard employee, and lost a lot due to a cannabis conviction back in 2007. But today I speak about not for me, for people like me. As your data shows, there are Black Virginians that are arrested 3.5% more than whites, and 60% now in some cases. All right, where is it? The families that were impacted are hurting still. There are plenty of us like me. People like me have rebuilt ourselves from the ground up, teaching ourselves digital services, agriculture, recycling, hiring returned citizens and unhoused to collect. And I've collected years of data on Virginia, cannabis, and patterns and customer patterns and regional demand.
Thank you. Sir, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lofton, and I've helped work with retail operators in the launch of South Dakota, New York, and most heavily New Jersey. And I wanted to offer New Jersey's technical assistance program and their technical assistance grants, as you might already know about them, but a resource for y'all. And wanted to say that they're very successful programs, but they weren't set up until almost a year after sales were legalized. So that first group, that equity-focused group, was not, basically they were guinea pigs, and they didn't have all the resources that other folks had when they came to open up. So I wanted to say, similar to what Chelsea said, that the timing of the launch is very important, and if the state doesn't have all the resources available for that first round, then it might be worth, looking at a later launch if the state is not ready. I also wanted to say that the funding opportunities, I think it's very important that the state offers funding. So I know there's a $3 million grant, and just curious if that's for, direct funding for those initial license holders or for the actual support. So thank you all. This is a very well thought out program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Jonathan Davis. I'm with the Richmond Crusade for Voters and the Virginians for Safe Cannabis. I'd like to thank you all for all the hard work you're doing, first of all. And I agree with Senator Evans, some of the points he brought up about the 50%, that I hope that somehow down the line, as y'all look through this, that we can work it out where that money can be set aside. And then initially, as we see it's not needed, it can be reinvested back into the program, to put back into other programs. I also heard what you said about the stores, and I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but I guess it'd be similar to the ABC stores, that they'll all be similar in structure, and that's important, I think, that we make sure that takes place. And in advertising, we have to make sure that the advertising is out there, similar to what's going on with tobacco, I guess, and alcohol, that things aren't put out there on billboards, et cetera, that kids and youth can see that's going to attract them to this industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Todd Gackey on behalf of the Family Foundation. I think that our opposition to legalization and commercialization is fairly well known. I think we're extremely discouraged by the fact that we're not going to have some type of local referendum to allow localities to decide what's going to be put in their localities. They may not want this, and they should be able to hold that, let the citizens decide in their locality. This will not do anything to alleviate any of the illicit drug market that is going on. In fact, according to the Center for Alcohol and Substance Use Studies at Rutgers University, the illegal market is alive and well. This has been reiterated by the NPR in 2024. So give the localities at least an option to be able to decide whether or not this dangerous product comes into their localities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello again. Thank you all for taking the time and making an effort to support opportunities for small businesses. There's a great deal to unpack from this presentation. While several positive changes have been introduced, there are also significant negative changes that cannot be ignored that unfortunately I can't speak on in just 1 minute. What I will say is that there are more than 1,500 hemp retailers who are hoping for a chance to enter this market. That number does not include all the aspiring entrepreneurs that are waiting on the sidelines that want to operate legally. Realistically, only a handful of us will ever receive a license. The ongoing discussions about equity sound encouraging, but it loses all meaning when the actual odds of accessing this opportunities remain so limited. If you want to support small businesses and you want to diminish the black market, you need to provide us a path forward. We need a lane, not a lottery ticket. The current proposals, again, just stifle competition, and I hope for the opportunity to continue to discuss a better path forward.
Thank you.
Hello, guys. My name is Michael Kelly with Natural Aid Distributors in Virginia Beach. As Virginia continues to shape the future of its legal cannabis industry, our company is hopeful is all fair, accessible, and sustainable marketplace that gives us all qualified businesses the opportunity to participate and thrive from day one. We believe a competitive, well-regulated cannabis market will not only support economic growth across the Commonwealth, but also ensure consumers have access to high and safe quality products that they can trust. Our hope is that Virginia's final regulatory framework welcomes new entrants, encourages responsible operators, and provides a clear path for small and emerging businesses to grow. Allowing companies to enter that market and begin scaling operations immediately, support transparent licensing, equity guidelines, and consistent oversight will help promote fairness, advocacy, and long-term stability for the industry. As advocates for the healthy cannabis market, we remain committed to working collaboratively with the lawmakers, the regulators, and community partners to build a market that reflects Virginia and the values and fairness, opportunities, and progress. We look forward to contributing to the legal industry.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate it.
And create
Thank
jobs.
you.
Have a good one.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Kayla Mock with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 400. I just want to thank you all for your work. It is not easy to balance this many opinions. And, you know, having these kinds of hearings with input from the public and stakeholders has been, I think, transformative. So we appreciate your work here. We want to acknowledge the fact that you kept workers in the room. You don't get a strong cannabis market or a publicly safe market without the workers. And so we appreciate that conversation, and we look forward to continuing to make these incoming jobs sustainable and generational. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Phoenix Hearn. I'm the cannabis chef that spoke last time, and I had a whole bunch of notes, and I'm just going to speak from the heart. Honestly, I'm scared, I'm worried that the clients that I have, that I teach how to implement cannabis into their food, to help them with elements, I want to make sure that there's some type of stipulation showing the guidelines of what we're able to do. Because cannabis and culinary arts is a huge thing. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but people are having dinners and they're implementing different forms of cannabis, either in oils or butters or sugars. And I have classes, and I've actually made a curriculum to teach culinary arts how to microdose and how to implement cannabis into people's lives. And I saw there was something on like 52 for farmers markets. That's like distributions, but what about private settings and dinners? Because it's going to happen. So that's just something you guys should consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Marvin Warner. I currently serve as the president of the Ministerial Alliance of Danville and vicinity. And also I represent as a part of Virginia for Safer Cannabis. My concerns are many have already been acclimated. These vape shops in our communities, they continue to open up. I saw one recently, the shops are being opened, and the study has been done to show that they are producing products that are not safe to our community. So my question to this community, what's going to be done about shutting them down? Also, we know that, and it's mentioned, and when this bill comes out and legalizing marijuana, what's going to happen? What, in terms of those that are selling illegal products now, the negative impact a lot of our communities. We want to make sure it's not disproportionately, marginalized in that particular area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So how many more do we have? Raise your hand if you're going to testify. If there's anybody sitting down that wants to. Okay, so we've got about 6 or 7. All right, because we have people online as well. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is William McGee. I'm the president of the Richmond chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and also here for Virginians for Safer Cannabis. My major concern that I'm going to share with all of you, I've been an educator for more than 40 years. I spent 20 years as an administrator in Richmond Public Schools, and I'm concerned that we're going to make new criminals out of our young people. And I say this to you to know that the school board policies are very strict when it comes to bringing drugs to school. Students get expelled. I've had to expel many of them. I've caught many students with drugs on them. We have to now put in place some guidelines and safeguards that will protect these students, because they're going to have parents, cousins, uncles with marijuana at home. And if you know, like I know, like you were, you're going to be tempted to grab a pouch of marijuana and take it to school. And for that reason, you're putting yourself, and we'll be putting those students in harm's way. We need to, all of us, the school board, the Department of Education, you all of us need to put in place safeguards that will, first of all, keep our students from becoming criminals, keep our students from being expelled from school, and keep our students from falling into the trap of ended up being drug distributors or drug dealers. This is very important, and I hope that I didn't see anything in there about education for students.
Time is up, but keep in mind, as I've said to everybody, that these are changes to the underlying bill, which has a lot of what you're talking about in there.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if you're in line, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to stop there at the end with the man with the red hat, and then we're going to go online. Go ahead. Oh, okay, I can't see you. Sorry, the young man with the cape. You're the last one. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Michaela Tappy. I'm a small business owner with a special interest in... Bring down. Can you hear me now? All right, I'm a small business owner with a special interest in a pharmaceutical and cannabis. So I'm very excited to hear that the paraphernalia tax is going to be removed, because I'm a woodworker, I make wooden pipes. What I would like to draw attention to is the fact, which a lot of people have talked about, the number of licenses. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Virginia is actually the data center capital of the world, and we are also moving that way with solar farms. I would love to see our land used for hemp and cannabis much more than our data centers and all of our water being wasted. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hi. Good morning, or afternoon, gosh. My name is LaTanya Warren, and I am a lab director working directly in cannabis testing and research. My course was the first to add cannabis education component approved by the Board of Pharmacy and Pharmacy Technician Certification Board when MSOs first arrived. I want to address a major issue in Virginia cannabis framework, the lack of true cannabis education and the limit of lab testing infrastructure in our state, costing businesses a fortune. Across the country, major universities now offer degrees in cannabis science, chemistry, cultivation, and product safety. The education and expertise does exist, but Virginia may not be utilizing it. The WDCA, I believe, should actively hire and consult professionals who are formally educated in cannabis science, not relying on outdated models or individuals without cannabis-specific training. Without scientific training, cannabis professionals guiding policy lab standards will continue to lag, and the public safety will continue to be at risk. If Virginia wants a credible, safe, and future-ready cannabis market, we must invest in qualified expertise and ensure our labs are held to modern science-driven standards.
Thank you for bringing those points. Sir.
When I start. Oh, how everybody doing? My name is Eric Spencer, and I know y'all done received comments from me, so I ain't gonna take up too much of y'all's time. But I got here late, so I don't know what's really going on with the bill. But clause 49 through 51, that definitely needs to be revisited. Because for someone like me that was actually impacted, actually did time for it, look like we still in the back of the line. So I echo what Ms. Wise said. Take a look at that, Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Peter Hillary. I just wanted to quickly address earlier, Senator Eben, you asked them to look at 25 on the matrix about the pay to play. And you said that was common in other industries. I do want to lay out that Virginia ABC does regulate that with retail licenses. So you can actually not have manufacturers pay. So I think we should probably keep that in there.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mark. I'm just a guy. Two quick things. One about the mile distance between stores. It seems really strange to equivocate cannabis to just liquor when I can walk a block that way and buy as much beer as I want at 7-Eleven. It seems kind of unalike. Secondarily, with relation to consumption sites, most people rent, I'd say is a fair assumption. Most buildings are non-smoking. If you don't make enough to have a yard, where are you to consume cannabis, say if you have an illness that prohibits eating food in some kind of way or makes it difficult to consume food? It's currently illegal to publicly consume cannabis. If you don't want your streets to smell more like it already does cannabis-wise, it would be intelligent to look into that, I think. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Name's Duke Dunn, and I'm a founder of Virginia Marijuana Justice to help make it happen as well. And also, I'm going to give you all a nice article about Spanberger from High Times about Spanberger is clear about her stance. Legalization done right means a safe, transparent, and fair market that reinvests cannabis and tax revenue back into Virginia communities. With her winning the path toward retail sales looks real. And I want to emphasize on a few main points. Rather than going through the whole detail, I'm just going to tell them. No tax on wholesale. That if you tax wholesale and retail, that defeats the illicit market. You will lose sales. And then also use the taxes for something other than drug treatment. This ain't a drug. This is a herb. Genesis 129. Okay. Also allow for equality for Virginians. That's what's great about Spanberger coming in. She's going to be for Virginia and we the people of Virginia. And protect the cannabis workers as well. I myself, I've been a connoisseur for 55 years this winter.
All right,
so
sir,
I know a
we've
little
got
bit about it, okay?
Thank you very
and
much.
In addition to that, something that you
cut
all
off.
also need to know.
You've used your time. We've got a number of people. I think it's 8 people online. Thank you very much.
I didn't get long. Anyway,
Yeah,
what you
no,
need
you
to
don't
do,
get to
compete
keep
with
going.
Maryland.
Everybody only had
Maryland
1 minute.
gives you up to 2
We've heard
ounces.
you every single meeting, and we can talk to you after as well. Thank you. We're going to have to ask you to step down. Thank you. Thank you. All right, will the clerk call the first person online, Mr. Ellis Norman?
He's not in the room, Mr.
He's not in the
Chair.
room. Mr. Joseph Domino?
He spoke in person.
Okay, Keith Olson?
Mr. Olson, turn your camera on and unmute your microphone, please.
Mr. Olson, you have 1 minute, as everybody else did.
He's not.
Hello.
All right. Mr. Olson, you have
I can't get my camera turned on.
Yeah, can you turn it on? Thank you. All right, you have a minute.
Great. How's it going? All right, I'm reaching out today because all this nonsense today is just to confuse the public and get their support. We're the market. We are not included in all this. The federal government is going to decide who gets to do that. The CCA is federally illegal once it crosses into recreational. It has protections under medical, it does not have under recreational. Marbury versus Madison rule supreme. The corrupt Canadian licensing will crush all small business. I'm talking to everybody here, everybody in the room. You're all going to be crushed. $10 million conversion fees. You're hearing it. It's happening in every state. Your 3,500 square feet ain't enough to make a living or compete with Argentina. Don't give these people our support. All this is nonsense. In the end, they just want to get a new federally illegal branch of government, federally legal administrative agency that can just make up rules.
Thank you very much.
Satisfy the Canadian
Thank you.
Lobbyists, the Canadian lobbyists. That
Thank
got
you. We're
them.
going to go to the next speaker, Tom Vuong.
He's not in the room, Mr. Chair.
Kalia Harris? No?
No,
Yes.
she's there.
Ms. Harris,
Are you there?
you've got a minute.
Good
Thank
afternoon.
you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kalia Harris, and I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia Student Power Network, here to just highlight a few key points. One being that we need education, not criminalization. We really want to see a retail sales bill that does not further criminalize marijuana sales or consumption in any way. Day one equity and impact is crucial to legalizing it right, as we've heard so many comments say today. Promoting equity from day one means that every operator starts at the same time, small and large, retail and medical, and we must give those who are most impacted by enforcement of the war on drugs a fair start, not a head start to corporations and monopolies. And lastly, this is an opportunity for repair. JLARC data shows us that Black youth are nationally most impacted by enforcement of marijuana. So let's use this opportunity to reinvest in our communities and repair the harm by investing in education and public health, as well as job opportunities in the emerging market for our young people.
Thank you. Thank you, Kalia. Thank you. All right. Do we have Mr. Mike Hashemi? No.
Yes, he's here.
Oh, he's there. Okay, go ahead. Mike, you're up. You got to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself. Is he unmuted, clerk? Can we help him?
It looks like he's unmuted, but we can't hear him.
We can't hear you, Mike. Can we come back to you? No, it's not working.
Yeah, he said come back.
We'll come back to you. We've got two more, and then we'll come back to you at the end. We've got Bernie Martin.
He's not in the room.
And Zachary Poole. I see
Zachary, please turn your camera on.
And turn your camera on, please, Zachary. Thank you.
Hello. Hey, how are y'all? Hopefully y'all can hear
You're
me.
on. We hear you. We hear you.
My name is Zach Poole. I'm the owner of Poole's Plants. As a licensed industrial hemp grower here in Virginia, I've spent hours working with the VDACs and the Hemp Enforcement Agency trying to get clarification on the current laws. The hemp laws are ambiguous and businesses must operate on a do and hope no one questions you mentality. Clear and concise language in the new laws will eliminate ambiguity and fix this issue. But we can't forget about the consumers in the law. Looking at again at industrial hemp. The testing requirements specifically revolve around THC percentage. This allows customers to buy compliant products, specifically flour and other minimally processed products that contain mycotoxins, heavy metals, and other contaminants. Transparency for the consumer can also be achieved with specific, clear, and concise language. It is my hope that Virginia will protect both consumers and businesses in how they draft this bill. And one final thing is kudos on, putting the small businesses first, because as a small business owner here in Virginia, when I make money off my business, I'm going to spend it here. So,
Thanks, Zach. Thanks. Okay, we're going to try you again. Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you fine. You got a minute.
All right, great. Yeah, the pleasures of moving your stuff. So I just want to address what happened on the federal level with the Delta 8 bans and the hemp regulations. I believe now that we have this federal clarification between now and November or potentially a later date, the CCA should advise local authorities to shut down a lot of these bad actors. I think that will root out a lot of these people who are going to try to get into this with already having a unfair advantage from using the Delta 8 revenues as capital. Another thing, the timeline for social equity, and maybe I misunderstood this earlier, but I know that we're going with people outside the state, convictions. I'm glad that we're dealing with distribution felonies as well. But I think the timeline, I think it was 2015 to 2025. I think that should be adjusted to maybe 2000 to 2025, so that we're including a lot of those folks that were still in Virginia with convictions, but pre-2020 to include.
Okay. Thank you for that last point, and we hadn't heard that yet. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody and the public here in person and throughout the Commonwealth, and that we're online. And many of you we've heard many times, and we really appreciate it because it's been a good, we've had a good session of meetings, and now I'm going to let my members make a final statement. If everybody would just hold up for a few minutes here. If anybody wants to speak, and I'll start with Delegate Moorfield, who's online. Delegate, if you have any final thoughts, this is your chance to say something. You don't have to. Delegate Moorfield. He may not be listening right now, so we'll come back to him. Oh, there you are. Delegate Moorfield, sorry. Will? All right, well, we'll come back and, okay. Delegate Fowler, any last words?
Well, it's been a lot of fun, and I think it's kind of a mixed bag on this bill. There's some things that I really like, and there's some things in there I really hate. So I guess we'll just have to work our way through there. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Fowler. All right, nobody else? Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I assume there's a significant number of cannabis consumers in the room, and our public consumption law right now is $25 penalty for consuming weed in public, and I think that's much too lenient a penalty. We need to get it so that when people are walking on the streets to restaurants with their kids and they don't want to walk through marijuana smoke, that they can do that. So that's one area that I hope that we do increase the penalty. I also want to talk about vape shops. Delegate Patrick Hope and I have put in legislation before for inspection of vape shop sales to underage people, and we think that would also uncover other potential violations, and I hope that people will support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Delegate Price.
Yes, thank you. Just very quickly, I want to thank everyone that has offered public comment throughout this process. We are listening, and we also read the public comments that have been entered. And I know that as a commission, we've been having to balance a lot, all of the many stakeholder voices, today's political and economic realities, a thriving market versus overkill, enforcement versus giving the illicit market more power, safety and accessibility, aspiration versus reality, and still I think we have a little bit more work to do to achieve that balance. I do want to make sure that we are living up to our statement of purpose in Amendment 40 in the Matrix. I want to make sure that not only the owner and operators reflect the impact of the war on drugs, but also the communities themselves. 2025 and 2026 are a very different reality that we are going into, and I am afraid that H.R. 1 is going to make those very same communities even worse. So I want to make sure we are looking at that. This bill, I think, in some parts reflects 2020, and in some parts reflects 2040, and I think we have to set a really good balance to make sure that it's based in reality. Please, please, please keep your comments coming. We really do read every single one, and I want to thank you all for your participation.
Thank you, Delegate Price. I think you've summed it up nicely. And now without any other buddy, okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.